Crown Produce secures produce locally and from around the world for Canadian retailers. Crown Produce is also proud to secure sponsorship of university football on Shaw. Crown Produce, supporting Canadian retailers and Canadian amateur football. Whether it's your first home, a refinance, or an investment property, Kia Grant & Associates can find a mortgage solution for you. In association with Verico Paragon, the work she does for you is free. Find her on Facebook at Kia Grant Mortgages.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Touchdown BC. I'm Andrew Wadden. This, of course, is Ryan Sullivan. Ryan, what the heck are you doing to the camera right now?
I'm making sweet, sensual love to a lens, my friend.
You are looking as beautiful as UBC was on the weekend. We got highlights, T-Birds, Golden Bears. Let's get right to it.
The Golden Bears took to the road facing UBC. But this isn't how they wanted to start. Early first cue, T-Birds pivot, Greg Bocott airs it out. David Scott hauls it in. A massive gain from the kid from El Paso, Texas. Couple plays later, the Lone Star Stater caps off the drive. Check out the handshake celebration. Pretty sure he stole that from Ryan and I. Second cue, G-Bears to punt from their own end zone. Alex Morrison fields the kick. Goes untouched down the sideline to the house, but hold up. The last line of defense, kicker Stephen Fabian pushed Morrison out. Here, let me circle it for you so you can see. However, the drive would get capped off with this run from Brandon Deschamps. That's another 6, soon to be 7 for the British Columbians. Very next series for Alberta. Ryan Schwartz out of the shotgun. Blocked. Nick Termanson climbs the ladder, nabs the pigskin. That would lead to a field goal. T-Birds in complete control. Second half and more of the same from UBC. Bocott goes airborne for Morrison, putting the Bluebirds into the Albertans' red zone. Bocott then caps off the drive with this run. UBC lay a beatdown on Alberta. Bocott with a season-best performance, tossing for 262 yards, connecting on 20 of 26 passes and 2 touchdowns. He also rushed for 72 yards while scoring twice. Scott caught a game-high 11 passes for 167 yards and 2 touchdowns. Brandon Deschamps returned from injury, rushing for 82 yards on 12 carries, scoring 1 major. The 60-point win by the T-Birds was their largest margin of victory all time, surpassing the previous mark of 54 set back in 2006. All right, let's take a look at the Canada West standings now. Calgary, of course, has the conference on lock at that perfect and 7-0. Manitoba, Saskatchewan, UBC, all tied for second place at 4-3. Alberta will get one last crack to break their dubious 24-game losing streak this weekend.
In 1980, SFU waltzed into CWU and they beat them on their home turf. They did it again just a few weeks back. Now Central Washington is on this side of the 49th, visiting the beautiful mountain that is known as Burnaby Mountain.
As I mentioned, SFU looking to go 2-0 against Central this season. They'd have to do it in the heavy fog. First play of the game for SFU on the kick return. Ball pops loose. It's picked up by Central Washington. An early welcome to our country gift for the Yanks, perhaps. We're a very hospitable people, as you know. Jordan Todd finishes the drive with an easy 20-yard scamper. There you go. CWU was born to play in the fog, apparently. It's 7-blank. They go back to Jordan Todd again for another one. Jordan Todd looking like a young Mike LaShore, shades of the Illini out there. He rumbles it up to the 6-yard line. Next play, ride the horse that got you there. Jordan Todd waltzes in with ease. It's 16-blank early on in this football game. SFU now in the offensive. Ryan Stanford lets this one fly, and it's hauled in by Bobby Borky. A heavy candidate for name of the night. Stanford then goes back to Bobo. That's a major after SFU scores another one, and the ensuing kickoff, Jesse Zalk somehow pulls it down out of the bog and somehow finds 75 yards all the way to the end zone. The kid out of Battleground, Washington, makes it a 23-14 ball game. Then to add a little salt to the wound, Matt Burke off the fake punt finds Deontay Gordon. He is gone 54 yards later, and CWU is walking into halftime up 44-14. Early second half, and Ryan Stanford hits Blake Williams-Miller, or Williams-Miller-Blake as he's known at the library. He takes it back 64 yards. This one is done. SFU loses 54-14 on their home turf. Jordan Todd was the standout for the Wildcats, picking up 172 yards on the ground with 2 touchdowns. Ryan Stanford for SFU threw 3 picks and was sacked 3 times. Not a great day at the office for the Clan. And now here's a look at your GNAC standings.
I don't know if I'm quite qualified to give you these BC high school football highlights, considering I don't have a high school diploma, but I'm going to do it anyways.
Mount Doug hosting Handsworth. Save Reno with a nice run early on here, right up the gut. It would lead to this. A nice little handoff to Marcus Davis. To the dad running the scoreboard. Time to go to work. Mount Doug is up early. Mike Lamoy from the Royals then makes like a young Damon Jones here with the alley. Mike Wegenest with the oop. It's a pick 6. Ashton McKinnon follows that up with a nice toss en route to Marcus Davis. An even better job on his part, staying in bounds. That's a touchdown for the Rams. They wouldn't stop laying it on either. It's Ashton to Marcus once again. This one is a 48-yarder. He's gone. Pato Vega puts the finishing touches on this one. Can you believe these two teams were tied before the game even started? Mount Doug wins this one with ease. 52-0.
Vancouver College visiting Belmont. Ovio Jagba gets the first handoff. Are we watching BC high school football or Electric Circus? Love the zoom happy camera work. BC would punch it in. Belmont's turn now from the 5-yard line. Josh Tipton finds Jordan Worth for the major. We get a tight shot of that ref. Thank you. Jordy Belfiore then finds Matthew Legg. He's gone. A massive catch and run. It looks even better when it's shot like a Spike Lee joint, too. VC wins 27-20.
Out to Percy Perry, it's STM and Terry Fox. Connor McKee hits Jason Shamamatsu for the winner. Fox has put it on the board. Ravens in the red zone again, and it's Jericho Mendez getting the handoff this time. He's in. That one, well, it looked quite easy. McKee then looking deep again for Shamamatsu, but he's picked off by Kayshawn Ross. He takes it back to the Fox 35-yard line. From there, it's Malcolm Lee on the QB keep. He puts STM ahead with just 30 seconds left on the clock. This one is over. STM takes it 19-12. All right, here's the rest of your scores from around AAA. Take a glimpse now at the AAA standings. Here's your AA scoreboard. And here's your AA standings.
You know what's beautiful? Vancouver Island. You got ferries, you got Nanaimo bars, and you've got football. Championship football, Cullen Cup football. The VI Raiders hosting the Langley Rams.
It was a long wait, but the day finally came. The big title fight, and it all went down at the MGM Grand. Nope, that's Caledonia Park, never mind. Dylan Chapdelaine picks Jelani Gilbert Noren's toss early on, and that sets up the Raiders with some primo field position. That's the primo stuff. Jaden Marwick hits Dylan Schrott in the end zone, then VI Raiders are up 10-blank early. I gotta say, I like the celebration. A little creativity from the Schrotts. Well played. Marwick is back for more. This pass gets tipped, but it's tipped right into the hands of Alex Thompson. Put it on the board. Raiders still leading the charge. Alex Kutra then takes the biscuit in from 10 out. VI leads 24-6. Langley wakes up a little bit though. Kyle Albertini takes this one in to cut the lead to 16. Noren then finds Danny English in the end zone with this sky ball. The sky ball. Anyway, it's a 9-point game. Whitman Tamuziak then finds the corner a bit on the kick return. I'm not an Adele fan either, by the way. The Raiders have life again. Marwick then finds Kutra for his second major of the day. They go back up 16. Gilbert Noren then takes the rock to the house with a solo effort. The drive still alive. However, soon after that, the Raiders close the door on any comeback hopes. It's Ario Fabro with the pick. He makes it a pick 6 with a solid run back. This thing, yeah, it's done. The Raiders win their 7th BC Championship in 9 years. 48-37 your final score. Good night from Nanaimo.
Wow, what an emotional game, and I'm just so proud. I'm really proud for our CEO, Hattie Abassi. Nobody understands what that man has put into his program, what he's done, and to see him in tears after the game and hold that cup up, that's one of the proudest moments I've had in 9 years of coaching the Raiders today, and wow, what a team.
All right, let's check out a little midget football from the island now. It's the Cowichan Valley Bulldogs hosting the White Rock South Surrey Titans. Early on, if you don't call this face masking, well, you're blind. An easy one for the Zebras, and it moves the Bulldogs into the red zone. From there, it's an easy rollout and toss for the major. Cowichan is on the board. WRSS not to be outdone, though. A nice take to the outside and a beauty finish. Punch it in, 2-4. Attaboy. Cowichan would then ice things. A little scamper up the middle here. Bulldogs with the win, 21-10. All right, here's a look at the rest of the scores from around the VMFL. Take a look now at the standings in the VMFL.
You know, Ryan, those Nanaimo bars from Nanaimo are delicious.
Only the ones from Nanaimo. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I can't believe, though, that you didn't get your high school diploma. Let's talk about that.
Who told you that?
I heard it through the grapevine.
We got Dom Abassi coming up next, play-by-play from the VI Raiders. Stick around.
Crown Produce secures produce locally and from around the world for Canadian retailers. Crown Produce is also proud to secure sponsorship of university football on Shaw. Crown Produce, supporting Canadian retailers and Canadian amateur football. Whether it's your first home, a refinance, or an investment property, Kia Grant & Associates can find a mortgage solution for you. In association with Verico Paragon, the work she does for you is free. Find her on Facebook at Kia Grant Mortgages. So, Dom, there was a whole lot more offense in the Cullen Cup than I expected. The top 3 teams in the BCFC had been keeping their scores rather low when they were playing each other through the course of the season. Was it a surprise to you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know what, Jim, it caught me off guard, too. I was expecting 2 very good defenses to sort of go head-to-head. And as far as the Raiders were concerned, they had a rookie quarterback starting the game who really hadn't been their go-to guy all season long. So I thought that might be a little bit of an advantage to the Langley Rams defense. But the way the game turned out, it just came out as a shootout. And the Raiders were able to get up early and pretty big in the second half. They led 24-8 at halftime. And then the Rams got their offense rolling just like I thought that they would be able to. And they were able to inch their way back into the game. But the Raiders just scored some real timely touchdowns in the third quarter and early in the fourth that sort of kept them just far enough ahead of Langley so they couldn't get really close with their comeback effort.
How impressive is it in your mind that the Raiders have overcome losing a starting quarterback, one that happens to be the all-conference quarterback in Jamie Abera?
Well, I mean, it's incredible, really. And you think about any level of football, you lose your starting quarterback in week number 8, and that could be catastrophic. And I think a lot of credit needs to go to Darryl Rogers, the offensive coordinator, and Matt Walker, the head coach, because they didn't panic and they had different quarterback packages for both Jamari Bennett and Jaden Marwick. They're both pretty mobile quarterbacks that can run, so they put in different packages. They used both of them down the stretch, although it was only Marwick in the BCFC Championship game. And another thing that the Raiders found that they really hadn't had consistently all year was their ground game. And they do it by committee. They've got Ashton Galloway and Michael Rashad and Andrew DeLeon working out of the backfield, and all of those guys really stepped up their game, and the offensive line as well. That was a part of their team that was injured a lot all season, and they ended up shifting a guy, Jordan Kuziak, over from the D-line to the O-line, and that seemed to spark things for them, and they were really hungry with their run blocking in the last 2 weeks of the regular season and into the playoffs.
Now, you've mentioned a lot of people on offense, but one guy that you haven't mentioned is Whitman Tamuziak, who was the Offensive Player of the Year in the BCFC. With the change at quarterback, has he been lessened as a weapon?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's no question, because Jamie Ibarra, who was coming out of Winnipeg and was an outstanding arm, he, to me, was more like Jordan Yance than any of the other quarterbacks, where he was the tall, strong-armed quarterback that could stand in the pocket and throw the ball downfield. And with Whitman Tamuziak and the speed that he possesses, you can't outthrow him. So just throwing the ball up to Whitman is going to end up in 2 touchdowns a game against most secondaries in the British Columbia Football Conference. So there's no doubt that when Ybarra went down with the broken collarbone, yeah, that did take Whitman Tamuziak a little bit out of the offensive attack. But what has happened is Whitman Tamuziak has become a force on special teams. He returned 2 punts for touchdowns in the latter weeks of the season, and he was actually named the special teams player of the game in the BC Championship. He had a huge kickoff return right after the Langley Rams scored a touchdown to pull within 9 points in the third quarter. Tamuziak returned it about 70 yards deep into Rams territory and set up a Raider touchdown to get the lead back up to 16. So he's found different ways to be effective for the Raiders, but there's no question that without Ibarra on that strong arm, it definitely changes his use in the Raiders' offense.
Next up is the Jostens Cup. You have 3 conferences in junior football, so one waits the winner of the 2 conferences. And in this particular turn, you're going to Ontario to meet the Windsor AKO Fratmen. It's not necessarily like the CIS where you've got video exchange. This is kind of like the old days when it comes to scouting reports, isn't it?
Actually, there is a little bit of video floating around out there. I was actually just chatting with some of the Raider players a few minutes ago, and they had said they had seen some film on Windsor. So I don't know if they dug it up off an iPhone or where that came from, but there is some film coming out from the Ontario Football Conference. And basically all that I know about the Windsor Fratmen is the fact that they have a linebacker who had 12 sacks in 8 games. So I know that the Raiders are expecting it to be a rush-happy defense, and they have a strong running back on their offensive side of the ball. But you know what? I think you're going to hear the old cliche from the Raiders coaching staff is we can't worry about our opponents. We have to worry about ourselves and worry about our own game. And if we have our systems in check, then it's going to be basically our athletes against theirs and see who comes out on top.
Yeah, even though you're going on the road, though, the OFC has been the weak link in the CJFL. Many of these teams are development teams for the CIS. I know in the case of the Fratmen that is not the case, but there hasn't been a team that has won the Canadian Championship coming out of Ontario since 1999, which happened to be Windsor. Who awaits the winner of this game coming out of the Prairie Conference in your mind?
Well, I mean, if you bet against the Saskatoon Hilltops, you're absolutely crazy. And when people ask me at the start of the CJFL seasons, who's the favorite? Are the Raiders the favorite to win the Canadian Bowl? And I never say yes. I never do, because the Saskatoon Hilltops are absolutely always the favorites to win not only the Prairie Football Conference, but to win their own conference. I mean, they've won 3 consecutive Canadian Bowls, and they're going to get a chance to host. And now, in my experience, I've traveled to call games in Saskatoon on 2 different occasions. Once was the 2010 Canadian Bowl, and the Hilltops, they were better than Jordan Yance and company on that day. And the other time was in 2008, and to be quite honest with you, the Hilltops were better than the Raiders on that day, but Andrew Harris rushed for 351 yards and couldn't be stopped, and that was really the only difference in that game. So outside of the Andrew Harris era, the VI Raiders have not been able to beat the Saskatoon Hilltops, and with all due respect to the Regina Thunder, I think the Hilltops, this is their championship to lose.
Just how nasty is the Gordie Howe Bowl as a place to play, especially in November? I don't think people on the coast have any idea just how bad that field can be, how cold it is there on some days, and how hard it is to land on that, well, turf. I call it turf, but sometimes it's just dirt.
That's exactly it, Jim. And people in BC, they don't even know how to prepare for that because we don't have turf or ground that becomes that state. It's almost, it's like the ground turns into mud and then freezes. So it's almost like this frozen hockey rink that you're trying to run on. You can't use the 3/4-inch studs because they don't even puncture the ground. You maybe try and use a short rubber tread and sort of glide along the top. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, there is absolutely no home field advantage greater than the Gordie Howe Bowl. And even as a broadcaster, man, that is one nasty place to play. I had 3-4 sweaters on and the toe warmers down in my shoes, and we were still dying up in the broadcast booth that day for sure.
Of course, they named it after a hockey player, and it's an ice bowl in November, so it all fits. Dom Abassi from the Wolf 106.9 in the Nanaimo, voice of the VI Raiders. Thanks very much for this. We hope to catch up with you after the Jostens Cup.
I appreciate you having me on anytime.
Okay, now it's time to move on to receivers. I've got Mark McDonald and Jerome Erdman with me. They're going to be working through 3 different drills. Mark, let's talk about the first drill that we're going to see today.
I'm not sure what you're doing. What are you doing? First drill? Oh, we're doing goalpost drill. Concentration drill again. Receiver will be behind the goalpost. The ball's coming towards him. You got to look either side of the goalpost. You got to catch it with your hands. Forces you to catch it with your hands, which is a big part of what we're doing.
What's the second drill we're going to see today, Jerome?
Second drill is a concentration drill. We'll have 2 lines of receivers. They'll be offset by a yard. They'll be running towards each other. The receiver at the back will have to catch the ball while the receiver in the front will screen him. So it's just a concentration on trying not to drift. They stay on the line and being able to catch the ball in traffic.
And what is the third drill that we're going to see today?
Third drill is a star drill. It teaches the kids to either a regular cut, which is chopping your feet and getting low, or a speed cut, which is turning on your inside foot and getting to where you should be.
And how difficult is it sometimes to break bad habits when it comes to cuts for receivers? Because sometimes that's one of the most difficult things to teach, because there's a lot of drifting at times with younger receivers, isn't there?
Exactly. I mean, that's why we emphasize it. It usually depends on how quickly you can get them. I mean, the later we wait to correct a habit, the harder it is, obviously. These high school coaches are starting to do a really good job of getting to them early, and it makes our job a lot easier when we get them a little bit later. But it is something that is very, very difficult, and like you say, very important.
Okay, well, let's get to the first drill.
Good. Nice soft hands, That's it, Johnny, attaboy.
So this is the first of 2 concentration drills here, Mark. Tell us what we're trying to achieve here with these receivers.
Again, concentration drill, but we're forces the kids to use what is called is a diamond. So you have the hands form a diamond, and it allows you to prevent the ball from getting into your body, which is what we're trying to do. So they catch it in the diamond and tuck it away, all without touching their body. If it touches the body, sometimes the ball will bounce out. So this is really a real good concentration drill for improving the hands and working on the diamond, what they call the diamond.
Not all that unlike what we see in volleyball in terms of setting a shot.
Absolutely, and you don't want to catch it with the palm, same as volleyball. You want to use your fingers, so it's mostly fingers making the diamond. If you hear that sound, it's too much. You want to hear, like that catch there, you want to hear very little, nice quiet catch.
And this is also something that you can apply to special teams on the return game, because we've seen so many times where not seen, but heard so many times that pop off the front of the shoulder pad.
It's a good example. That's a great example. You can tell when a kid's made a nice clean catch, that sweet sound, you don't hear much, as opposed to what you're just saying there, where you hear that big thump, then you know there's trouble following that. So.
And I guess this is where you can also help a receiver develop soft hands.
Yeah, very much so, and it's a drill that I think we first picked up on Coach Jerome term's been around a long time, but I think probably down in the States where they really work on the little things, and again, catching it away from your body is really big as a receiver. So.
You guys back there are catching. Ready? Here we go. Go.
Okay, how is this concentration drill different from concentration drill number 1?
It mirrors what you'll see in a game where one guy is providing some sort of resistance and you catch it behind him. So you really have to watch the ball. You actually lose sight of it for a split second and then catch it. It forces you to track the ball and to concentrate, actually literally concentrate quite a bit harder than you would because that guy has given you a little bit of resistance.
This is about concentration, but does this drill expose any bad habits that you as a coach can break?
Yeah, it tells you if you're fading away from the ball. It tells you if a kid, for instance, tends to shy away when he gets into traffic. This is a great drill for if you're going across the middle, which a lot of little receivers don't like to do, myself included. But it forces you to really concentrate and to bring the ball in. And the more resistance the guy can give you, he doesn't have to touch you, but he just has to sort of block your vision, and that simulates what's happening in a game. Because a lot of times you'll lose sight of it and still have to catch the ball.
I guess a good alternate name for this drill might be the courage drill too.
Yeah, across the middle, a courage drill. Yeah, exactly. Bad people live in the middle, but it's a real good drill for the kids. And they really it forces them to concentrate.
Ready to go.
We got complementary patterns. Go.
Tell us what this drill's all about, Jerome.
Okay, this drill mainly is the emphasis is on the footwork. I mean, coming to a stop and be able to make a sharp cut, yet still giving the defensive back an illusion that you're going deep. That's why you see the really overemphasizing of the arm motion, and then being able to watch their hips should be sinking so that they can get an explosion out of the cut, which is the most important part of the pattern, is getting that separation from the defensive back at the cut. So this is just a drill that emphasizes these points.
Okay, so first of all, let's take a look at the arm motion, because it's something that I would think at the younger levels of football they're not necessarily focusing on when it comes to receiving technique. How important is it that there's power put into that arm motion to make the turns and cuts?
It is very important. Like, number one reason why you said is the power, because it accentuates the running side, and number two is to give the illusion to the defensive backs. A lot of people have the potential, or the habit is when they're slowing down or stopping to make a cut, the arms fly out. It's like you're braking or something like that. And as much as we'd like to think, defensive players aren't stupid, so if they see that, then the defensive backs are going to stop and they're getting ready to break. So we always must give the illusion that we are going to be going deep, and that, you know, the arm action really helps that.
When you're talking about getting low on the cuts too, how can you coach that?
It's strictly like most things, it's repetition. I like to use the analogy is your legs are like springs, okay? When we get, like we were saying, you want to get separation, you want to get a burst, and the only way you're going to get that effectively is if you're squatting, your knees are bent, because that's where all your power comes from. If a spring's fully extended, it's got no power, whereas if it's compressed, then you get the explosion, and you try and give them illusions like that, so it gives me an idea of what we're trying to teach them.